Hey Heartlanders! Today I interviewed Haroun, one of the head writers for Heartland, who's been there since season one. He talked a lot about the last couple of seasons, the motivation of the characters, as well as the actors who have been in the show, and a lot about the upcoming storylines for season 16. Watch this. Like, you'll deal with these topics that are pretty deep, but you bring them in such a way that it's not depressing. You don't watch it and you're like depressed after, like so many shows you watch and you're like depressed. It's like murder and violence, but
Yeah,
it's really well done. It's so unique, Heartland.
it is a unique show, and absolutely, you never want to be too heavy-handed. I mean, it's definitely we try to portray real life, so there are
Yes.
dark, difficult things that happen. And for example, when Ty passes away, that's obviously a very difficult story to tell, and obviously you have to take those characters through those emotions, but you don't want to do that in a way that you bring everybody down and it's dark and really sad the whole time. You want to balance that.
Yeah.
You balance out a little bit of humor, a little bit of lightness, and that's hopefully what we were able to do.
I mean, do you feel like from what you're saying now that season 14, for example, I know a lot of people at first complained about it. I mean, recently, even I don't even want to admit, but I sort of did too at first because I was like, oh no, this is not like Heartland. Even the intro was like made different. But then now
Mhm.
I'm rewatching it. It's so good. I can't believe that I was like complaining, and now I'm like watching, and it's like I think it's one of the best seasons. And I would
Oh,
never. I can't believe I'm saying that because
well,
I
thank you
didn't
for
think I
thank you for
liked
saying
it.
thank you for saying that. Yeah, um, it was hard for us. It was hard for us to write those stories. Uh, certainly when Graham wanted to move on from the show, we realized that it would have been really hard for him to exit in any other way because he was so connected to Amy and he had a young daughter and he'd made such a transformation as a character.
Yes, his character,
Show.
I think more than any other character on the show, like you said, made this transformation. And I think a lot of people, that's what they really got attached to. They got attached to the idea of this kid who was down and out, the underdog, especially in the US. We love underdogs. So, and then he became like this perfect man, and they just became so attached to that character, and they were sort of devastated and upset now because he's not there.
For sure, yeah, and I think we wanted to honor the character, and it didn't feel like the way to honor him would be if he suddenly left or disappeared, or
Yeah.
their relationship deteriorated, and he left in any if he left any other way, I feel like it would have been so unsatisfying. It was, and Graham made it really clear that he wasn't going to come back.
Right.
He was moving on. So and so we wanted to honor what Graham wanted as well, as someone
Right.
that had committed so many years of his career and life into Heartland. We can't control the lives of the actors. It's their choice to come back year to year. And so we were fortunate to have Graham for as long as we did, and then
Yeah.
he moved on, and we're happy he's pursuing the things that he's interested in. And so yeah.
And so, like, season 14 ended up being really good when you watch it again and see those stages of grief that
Mhm.
Amy and the whole family go through, which is really neat to see. I don't think I've ever seen, oh, I've never seen a show like Heartland. It's just, like I said, it's so unique. You guys put so much thought into the writing.
Yeah, it was definitely something that we spent a lot of time discussing, and we really wanted to do it right. And I think Amber, who is just so fantastic, who plays Amy,
Yeah.
she really stepped up to the plate because that's not an easy story to tell. Those weren't easy scenes to perform, and she was magnificent. And I think looking back at as difficult as it was, working on that season, um, it is some of the best work I think that we've done, and because the journey continues.
That's right. And in season 15, you actually wrote episode 7, which I know several people have said episode 7 is some of Amber's best acting because she confronts Ty's killer in that.
Mhm.
And we just saw that here in the States on Up Faith and Family that sort of exclusively runs season 15 of Heartland. So you wrote that episode.
I did, yeah, and you're absolutely right. Like, Amber is so incredible in that episode, and I mean it it's one of the, it was a hard episode to write because I knew that I was walking a really fine line, but also, it felt to me like the character of Amy she had come so far in how she had dealt with grief and how she was dealing with this idea of moving forward and this idea of forgiveness and the complexity of all of that. And so it felt like the right time to tell that story, because the character of Amy had accomplished so much in terms of how she was dealing with where she currently was in her life. So yeah, it worked out so beautifully. And I thought Amber was just really, really, really incredible in that episode. I don't think she was ready completely to forgive by the end of that episode, but she was in a place where she didn't want to dwell in anger. She didn't want to dwell in sadness. She wanted to move forward. So I think there's a sense that she's moving forward at the end of that episode. She didn't want revenge against, the guy that shot Ty, and she just wanted to move forward with her life. And I think she says to him at the very end that, she has a good life. Like, what happened was awful and losing her husband was terrible, but she still has so many good things in her life and she's moving forward.
And like that part about, I love that part about her feelings of guilt, like her emotions of like, well, I could have made him go back to the hospital. And she brings that up again in that episode. And I thought that was so real, because I think anybody who's gone through a death of whether it's a pet or whether it's a family member, that's the one thing you keep dwelling on. You're like, what could I have done different? What could I have said different? You can't get it out of your mind.
Absolutely. And yeah, absolutely. You cycle through all these different thoughts and emotions of guilt. And really at the end of the day it's like, you have to let go of those things and you have to move forward. I think that's the place that Amy comes to by the end of that episode.
Yeah. And so I'm guessing for going forward, we haven't seen the rest of that season yet. It's sort of like her period of growth and getting away from just being sad and depressed.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, the rest of that season, and then also have a season 16 and continue to tell those stories. We really want, that to be the theme is really her moving forward, a kind of new lightness in her life. So, and that's really what we're focusing on.
Well, you guys are in development anyways of like the writing part. Can you talk a little bit about the season 16, what you would do in terms of the storyline a little bit? I know you can't tell me like exact scripts, but
yeah, I mean, certainly, we're going to continue to really challenge Amy with new and interesting horse clients. Sure. And, for sure, looking back and bringing some characters that you'll recognize from past seasons that we maybe haven't seen.
Okay, well, I started a campaign called Save Mrs. Bell, because there's a lot of people out there that want Mrs. Bell back, including me. I think she's like a really good character.
Mrs. Bell is an iconic character on Heartland that, the audience loves. Well, she is fantastic. And I wrote an episode a long time ago now, but it was called The Haunting of Hamley Barn.
Oh, that's one of my favorite episodes. That is the best.
Yeah, it was so much fun to write. And of course, Mrs. Bell was central to that story.
Yeah.
And she was absolutely wonderful in that role, and throwing new challenges at all of the characters on the show. And it's interesting when I think we've seen some successes in the lives of our characters and them getting what they want, and then we're going to see the result of that. So when you get what you want, it's a double-edged sword. Sometimes it's great, but sometimes there's a consequence to getting what you want. So you'll see all that.
I'm trying to guess what you're saying, but there's so many avenues you could go. But in terms of Lou, I'm just thinking about like her character, for example. I was always thinking it'd be cool if Mallory or Mrs. Bell could come back and like challenge her and like run against her.
Well, that's it. I mean, so we've certainly, in very close to what you're saying is something we're definitely considering about.
Oh, that would be so funny.
His trajectory as a mayor and where that sort of ends up. So I think yeah, it's a great thought, and I think you'll be very pleased with kind of where we're going with all that. Yeah, Michelle, who plays Lou, she brings so much great humor to the series.
She does. Especially, not only in the later seasons, but in the early seasons, she would just get so. Some of the things you gave her to talk about were like so emotional, and like her screaming and everything. I just think it's funny. Even though I know she's older and you guys try to go along with the ages of the characters. I mean, just because you're 40 doesn't mean you don't scream anymore.
No, exactly. Yeah. And that's what's so great about that's what's so great about Lou is, she's just completely her own person,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
she is not afraid to say what she thinks. And and I think lots of people go, oh man, oh Lou, not again,
Yeah,
oh
they don't
not
like it.
again. But
Well,
I
there's
think that's
some
what's so
people in
wonderful
real
about
life
Lou,
like
because she's
that.
so authentic, right? She's such an
Yeah,
authentic person.
yes, exactly. I know, like, I'd say like 10 people exactly like her. There's just so many people that are like that. How life would be boring if you didn't have those people around. You don't have to be
Totally.
friends with them, but they're good to know what's going on.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then Tim as well, I know he sort of made a transformation of being more like this stable family man, but it seems like that won't stay like that for forever. I guess I don't know. I don't know. He has his core personality. It's got to come through at some point.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think we always sort of play Tim as, he has a good heart, I think, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I for the most part he's well intentioned, but he's
And that's a
Tim, right?
lot of people, right? They're really
Yeah.
well intentioned and they really have a good heart, but they're so annoying. It's just like,
No, exactly. I mean, he's always Tim. He's always he has a bit of an ego. He puts a lot of pressure on his family. There's so many people watch Heartland and they go, oh, I have that, I have a Grandpa Jack in my family. I have a Tim in my family. I have a Lou in my family. And I think that's why this show speaks to so many people. But I think what is universal about Heartland are the family dynamics and the emotions. So that's really what I connect with on the show are the characters and the relationships and the emotions. And that's where I come into this
yeah,
show.
you can see that in your scripts that they're all like
Yeah.
have there's a lot of emotion and drama.
Yeah, then that's what I love. And you know I mean, I like writing all of the characters. I certainly, in the early years, Ty, I just enjoyed digging into who he is and where he came from, and then to see where he ended up as a character was such a satisfying journey as a writer to to be able
Do
to
you
write that
feel,
story.
mentioning Ty, do you think that Graham in real life, I'm playing a character like that or not, for so long, it's got to affect you in some way. Do you think he wanted to sort of emulate that, being more perfect in his own life and following? Yeah,
That's interesting. I can imagine. I don't know specifically in terms of Ty and Graham, but I can imagine, like any actor that plays a role for a long time, it's something that becomes part of your life in some way. It's not like it's not like a 9 to 5 job that you kind of leave at the end of
right.
the day. It's something that you have to really commit to, right, over a long period of time. So yeah, I don't know specifically. I'm not an actor, but I certainly have so much respect for what actors do and what they bring to the table. And Heartland would not be, in season 16 if it wasn't for the incredible cast that we have. They're such a huge part of why the show has spoken to so many people all over the world.
Yeah, but don't downgrade that the writers too. That's what Ken did. He's like, oh, it's the cast. And he was telling me the story about one time when you guys were introduced at like a fan extra day, and he was introduced and like the audience like exploded and like, they were like clapping, going crazy. And he's like, wow, they like really like those 2 episodes I wrote in season 4. But then he saw that Graham was like behind him and had just come out of his trailer.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I know people do that, but you guys, it starts with the writing. If there, I'm sorry, but I mean, yeah, it's great. The cast is great and everything. But if there was no good writing, there's Brad Pitt is in terrible movies. I mean, it's like,
No, you're
with
absolutely right.
bad writing, it's not going to go anywhere. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think that's, Heather, a real credit to Heather and the team that she's
Yeah,
assembled on this
yeah, for
show
sure.
to tell these stories so consistently over so many episodes, over so many years. And I was actually there when Ken had his moment in front of the crowd, and it was very funny because I think Heather was introducing her writing team, and I think we're writers, so we're not the type of people that
Right, you're
necessarily
more shy. You're not like, I want to be out there on
yeah.
YouTube or on TV and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think when Heather introduced me and one of the other writers, we were just kind of waving. We didn't want to go up but you met Ken. He's a little bit more gregarious,
Yeah.
and so when Heather introduced him, he marched out there, and just everyone started cheering, and he was like, "Wow, that's great!" But of course, it was Graham who had just exited his trailer or whatever to meet everyone, and of course, whenever the main cast anytime that we've had like a extras day where we have, yeah, they just like the reception, like it's just, because we're in our as writers, we're in our offices and we're
Yes.
working, we're writing, and we're on set, and we don't necessarily always have that connection to the immediate connection to the fans, but when they come out on that day, it's just incredible to see the enthusiasm.
You don't realize it
until
you see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, it's such a joy when on those days is to see the fans there. It's just it's wonderful.
Well, we all want to see you guys too. But I really want to thank you for your time. It was so nice to meet you, Mark.
Absolutely, yeah. And it was such a pleasure to meet you. And I really appreciate everything you do with your YouTube channel. And it's really wonderful. So thank you very much.
If you like this video, please like and subscribe for more great videos all about Heartland. Keep Heartland strong. Bye for now.